I think that the whole pink and blue concept came about quite recently in the 80s and 90s, and it happened when toy manufacturers realised if you have a little boy and then you have a little girl, they're going to make much more money by having blue toys and pink toys. So, you know, a lot of the toy stores and the retailers have aisles dedicated to pink, fluffy, sparkly things, and then for boys it's all about superheroes. So, you know, when I was little I had a doll, and I also liked playing with mud pies, and today I think children are being pigeonholed too much.
But they're very children themselves. They have their own personalities. They have their own style. So you may try to pigeonhole them as much as you like, but eventually most children will bust the edges of that down. And I don't want a car. I want a doll, says the boy.
Let's hope, because there are cases where little boys, for example, want to play cafe or even go to school with a little bag with a picture of a doll on it. There was a case in America where a boy was really bullied because of it. And so I think, yes, possibly later on, but as children, I think we need to encourage them to have access to both. You know, celebrity chefs, you know, often were the only ones in cookery classes. So, you know, what happens if they just listened to their bullies and didn't do what they wanted to do and follow their passions?
But I think there is something about what children do ordinarily. I mean, I think you're right. I think children are drawn to certain toys, and we have a responsibility for that. And I think turning the tables on them at Christmas or in their birthdays is a very difficult thing, because actually, you know, if your daughter wants a doll, then I think your responsibility as a parent is to perhaps get that doll. There are some dolls that, you know, I'd have some questions about, because I don't think they perhaps give the best messages. So, you know, I'm very clear about that. But when I'm in schools or I'm in nurseries and I'm watching children play with toys, they are drawn to toys that reflect their gender sort of principles, I suppose, the way in which they've been brought up. But what they do is they play with them in quite general ways. They don't just play with them in one way. They are quite creative, and they think about how the doll's feeling or whether this car's going fast and what all the cars are doing together. So I feel less worried about it because of what I think children do with
Surely
toys.
the danger, though, is it's not what your child plays with. Your child will play. If you give them a whole bunch of toys and they're allowed to play with whatever they like, they'll graduate to whatever they want to play with. The danger is when you say to your child, you shouldn't be playing with that.
For sure. Or they're given, like I was given a doll when I was young, and it was quite short, big frizzy hair, looked nothing like the doll that's perfect with long straight hair, and you know, I ended up cutting off the hair and drawing in because it wasn't me. And the problem is I think that we give dolls that try and impose our view of what life is about, and these dolls today are glamorized, they're over-sexualized, they look like they've walked off the catwalk. That's not reality. I mean, beauty is not perfection, and some of these dolls have the thigh gapping, and later on when teens have to deal with some of the issues of that.
Do you think that it's an over-the-top statement to say that little girls of 4 and 5 are actually looking that closely at a Barbie doll's gap between her legs or the size of her breasts? I mean, is it not us that's sort of putting our views of overly sexualising a Barbie, for instance, onto that doll?
I think that we can do that, of course, but there is research that shows that children as young as 4 and 5 are aware of what they look like. You know, there are even cases of children that young who are anorexic. You know, there's so much in the media that now that's creating a perception of what beauty is, and you know, women are still too much judged by their looks, which is why all the pink frilly stuff is all about hair and makeup and pet parlours and all of that. So, you know, yes, but I think they are sponges, and they're forming, you know, their desires and their...
The trouble is, though, and I absolutely understand that.
It was like uncontrolled weeing, but it was clearly not that. It was just, you know, everywhere. And that's when I knew, right, I need to go to the hospital because it's not right. And that's what we did.